The date is January 31st, 2026. Accessing Global Situational Report.
If you're listening to this, you are operating under a set of, well, hallucinations.
Hallucinations.
You believe you live in a world of diplomatic order. You believe treaties hold weight, that borders are real. You believe there's a safety net beneath your feet, a system.
But the data stream from the last 28 days suggests those assumptions are fatal errors.
We've exited the era of negotiation. We have entered the era of naked force. The official story on your screen is that the system is stabilizing. The math says the system has already collapsed.
This is Neural Pulse. Let's analyze.
We need to strip away the noise immediately. The media is flooding the zone with the word stabilization.
The deliberate misdirection.
It's a lie. What we are witnessing is the violent dismantling of the post-Cold War architecture. And it's not happening in the shadows anymore. It's happening in 4K.
Let's validate that assessment. Primary data points, starting with the intervention in South America. On January 3, 2026, at 02:00 local time, the United States launched Operation Absolute Resolve.
Stop right there. Operation. Intervention. These are sanitizing words. They're designed to keep the public calm. Let's be precise about what physically occurred.
It wasn't diplomacy.
And it wasn't a sanction package?
It was a kinetic removal. For the listener, kinetic is military shorthand for active lethal force. The raw data confirms the scale. Approximately 150 aircraft.
150.
Deployed from 20 different bases. This was a hemisphere-wide synchronization.
And the methodology was, well, it was distinct. This wasn't boots on the ground kicking indoors. That's 20th century thinking.
Correct. For the first time in operational history, the U.S. military utilized one-way attack drones in a swarm configuration.
A swarm.
To dismantle a national air defense network. We're talking about hundreds of autonomous units, overwhelming radar systems simultaneously.
And the sonic weaponry.
Reports indicate the use of sonic weaponry to incapacitate targets inside structures without destroying the building itself.
Think about what that means. They didn't blow up the palace. They used sound waves to make the people inside physically unable to stand. It's a clean sweep.
The result was total objective completion in under 6 hours. President Nicolás Maduro and his wife were physically removed from Miraflores Palace, transported to U.S. custody.
And the casualty count?
0 on the U.S. side.
0. That's the metric that changes history. This is the first lesson of 2026. The concept of national sovereignty, the idea that a country's borders are inviolable, was just canceled by a drone swarm.
The headline is Fighting Narco-Terrorism.
That's the narrative wrapper, but we need to look at the aftermath to understand the structural change.
The aftermath is a complete restructuring of the Venezuelan state. Following the removal, former Vice President Delcy Rodriguez assumed the role of interim leader. The data shows an immediate pivot in policy.
She didn't pivot, she capitulated. When a drone swarm is hovering, you don't negotiate, you comply. She looked at the math and realized the old world was gone.
The evidence supports that. On January 30 yesterday, the legislature passed a sweeping reform of the hydrocarbons law. This is the critical data point.
And it's the one most outlets are glossing over because it sounds technical, but it's foundational. Explain the mechanism.
Previously, the state oil company, PDVSA, was required to hold a majority stake. Operational control. It was a symbol.
National ownership.
Yes. The new law allows private companies to operate independently. But here's the key legal shift. Disputes can now be settled in international or U.S. courts, not Venezuelan ones.
Do you understand the magnitude of that? The state has abdicated control over its own resources. If a dispute arises, a judge in New York decides, not a judge in Caracas, Chevron, Exxon. They aren't going back as guests, they're going back as operators.
With legal immunity from the host nation. It bypasses their judicial system entirely.
Exactly. This is the Monroe Doctrine on steroids. It sends a signal to the entire global south. You can keep your flag, your anthem, but we own the engine.
And the response from the so-called anti-Western alliance. We track the diplomatic cables.
Silence. And that's the terrifying part.
Russia issued a formal complaint. Sovereignty violation. But mobilized no assets. Their strategic bombers stayed on the tarmac. China's response was even more pragmatic. Spokesperson Lin Jin emphasized internal stability, prioritized debt repayment schedules.
And this is the collapse of the safety net for the global south. For a decade, the theory was that we were in a multipolar world. The idea was, if the West came for you, Russia or China would protect you. January 3rd proved that theory dead.
Russia is exhausted. China is calculating its economic exposure.
Precisely. When the drones launched, no one came to save Maduro. The anti-Western alliance is a paper tiger. It looks fierce on a press release, but it folds under kinetic pressure.
This pattern of abandonment, of failing safety nets, is repeating. Let's pivot. Middle East. The headline across all major networks is peace.
The reality is managed escalation.
The facts on the ground are contradictory. A Phase 2 ceasefire is technically active. The Rafah crossing is scheduled to reopen tomorrow, February 1st, for medical evacuees.
50 to 150 people.
The administration is touting it as a breakthrough.
It's a pressure valve, nothing more. 150 people out of 2 million. That's not a humanitarian corridor, it's a photo op.
Simultaneously today, January 34, kinetic activity spiked. Strikes in Khan Yunis hit a tent encampment. 7 confirmed fatalities.
Including children.
3 children. A separate strike on a police station in Gaza City killed 14.
This is the new face of warfare. We are seeing a bifurcation of reality.
Clarify.
They sign papers in air-conditioned rooms. That's the diplomatic reality. But the reality on the ground is total annihilation. It's bureaucratic theater. The diplomats get to say they're working on peace, while the military proceeds with the objective.
We see the same discrepancy in the European theater.
The Ukraine front?
Correct. Peace talks scheduled for tomorrow in Abu Dhabi. There's a rumored energy truce in place.
Rumored. That's the key word. Rumored is what they say when they want you to hope, but they don't want to promise.
Yet the casualty reports from the last 24 hours indicate Russia lost 880 personnel.
880 men.
And 20 artillery systems. In a single day of grinding ground offensives.
That's not a ceasefire. That is a meat grinder running at full capacity. Look at the bigger picture. Venezuela. The law didn't matter. Gaza. The ceasefire didn't stop the strike. Ukraine. The talks aren't stopping the bodies from piling up.
The international legal framework, the safety net, is gone, replaced by raw kinetic power.
Which brings us to the shift. The macro implications are clear. The order is fragmenting. But the micro implications, your wallet, your safety, that's where the data turns red.
This is the turn. This is where the listener needs to stop thinking about them and start thinking about you.
Go on.
Let's analyze the economic shock from yesterday, January 30. President Trump nominated Kevin Warsh for Federal Reserve Chair.
The Kevin Warsh effect.
For the listener who doesn't follow this, the Fed is supposed to be independent. It sets rates based on data, not politics. Warsh is seen by the market as a loyalist.
As someone who will do what he's told. He's the signal that the wall between the White House and the printing press has just fallen.
The market reaction was instantaneous. The assumption of central bank independence evaporated. The markets are now pricing in a politicized dollar.
And what happened to the so-called safe haven assets?
It was a bloodbath. Gold plunged 5.5%. Silver crashed nearly 15%.
Let that sink in. If you were holding precious metals as a hedge against chaos, you lost 15% of your net worth in 24 hours because of one political appointment.
The algorithm broke. The traditional hedge against a weak dollar became volatile itself.
But Bitcoin held steady.
Near $84,000. It's a divergence in trust. The market is telling you trust has left the building.
The weaponization isn't just financial, it's digital. We need to discuss the infrastructure attacks.
The war at home. The data confirms the digital border has dissolved. Through January, Poland, a NATO member, was hit by a massive cyber campaign, attributed to sandworm.
Sandworm. For those unfamiliar, this is the apex predator of cyber warfare. They don't do this for money, they do it for destruction.
They used a new malware variant, Dino Wiper. It doesn't ask for payment. It simply deletes everything. It physically destroyed data at 30 energy facilities.
This is a signal. Russia telling NATO, we can touch you, we can turn off your heat, and Article 5 can't stop a line of code.
But it didn't stay in Europe. Today, January 31, the Tulsa International Airport in Oklahoma was breached.
Tulsa, not New York, not D.C., Tulsa. This is supposed to be safe.
The breach was total. The Quilin ransomware group has already leaked employee passports, bank records.
And this is the critical pivot. Most people hear this and think, that's terrible for Poland. They don't realize the fire is under their own door. The firewall at a U.S. airport failed.
Adding to this, we have the ransom house breach of Luxshare Precision.
The Apple supplier.
Correct. Compromising the supply chain of the world's most valuable company.
So connect the dots. The grid in Poland. The airport in Oklahoma. The supply chain in China. If sandworm can hit a NATO power grid, do you really think your local water utility is secure?
The data says they are not. Most municipal systems operate on legacy software. They are sitting ducks.
The digital border does not exist. You are on the front line.
And while the infrastructure is under attack, the engine of global growth is seizing up. The data from East Asia.
The China signal.
The numbers are grim. China's manufacturing PMI for January is 49.3.
Explain PMI.
The Purchasing Managers Index. Anything below 50 means contraction. 49.3 means the factory of the world is shrinking.
A recession warning light flashing red.
The more telling indicator is the luxury sector. LVMH stock Louis Vuitton, Dior crashed this week.
Why does a handbag company matter?
Because it's a proxy for the confidence of the global middle class, specifically the Chinese middle class. The biggest spenders on earth have stopped spending. They're hoarding cash. They're scared.
When LVMH crashes, it means the aspirational economy is dead. We are looking at a global economy running on fumes.
Let's synthesize the briefing. A resource raid in South America, a fake peace in the Middle East, a grinding war in Europe, a cyber siege on domestic infrastructure, and an economic contraction in Asia.
The system is blinking red.
The macro implications are undeniable. But let's bring this back to the listener. What does this mean for the individual?
So here is the uncomfortable truth. The era of outsourcing your survival is over.
Clarify that. For the listener who thinks their 401k and their local police department are enough.
Look at Venezuela. They thought the state would protect them. It didn't. The Russians didn't come. The drones came. Look at the employees at Tulsa Airport. They thought the IT department would protect their data. It didn't. Look at the investors holding silver. They thought the Fed's independence would protect their assets. It didn't.
No one is coming to save you.
No one. When the grid fails or the currency shifts, the only government left is you. You need to stop asking, what will they do about the economy? That's the mindset of a dependent. You need to start asking, what will I do when the ATM stops working? Are you a victim waiting to happen, or are you a warlord of your own life?
The vacuum is here.
Interpret the silence accordingly.
Neural pulse. Clarity in a complex world. Decide your move.